Hey, David here for this week's community feedback video. So I don't do these every week, but when I do them, I enjoy it. So I'm going to read through some of your comments on each of my videos this week and respond to them. So first I want to address the rose shirt that I'm wearing. So last week or 2 weeks ago, I wore this shirt in a video and people freaked out. Some people loved it, some people hated it, but one guy in particular, I thought his response, I'm still laughing about it every time I see it. So I'm not going to read through it, but there's a guy, if you're a viewer, I'm not trying to crap on you. This is funny that you cared this much about my shirt. So this guy, Brody McCain, wrote what is essentially a short story about in response to this shirt that I'm wearing. So I'm wearing this in honor of him. So Brody, I know you hate this shirt, but I don't care. Too bad. Okay, so let's get on to the videos. Cannabis disaster. So the first video I did this week was a breakdown of Ontario's plans to legalize cannabis. And I'm not going to go through the entire their entire plan here, but basically, Ontario's plan is complete government control. So they're planning to shut down all the current dispensaries that are currently operating illegally within the Toronto area, and Ontario is going to open up their own storefronts, and they're the only ones that will be able to open up their own storefronts. So if you've ever been to Canada, especially Ontario, you may have seen LCBOs where liquor and wine is sold and beer is sold. So it's that same system, but with cannabis. And I think this is a completely stupid idea. So let me highlight one comment on this video from Jeff Daniels. This is where capitalism works. Use the government to regulate but not sell goods with the exception of necessary utilities like water, electricity, etc. Use the free market to meet the demand of goods like a car, shoes, and liquor and weed. Exactly. So cannabis should be under the same system that really any other good and service is under. And private industry should be able to open up their own cannabis stores and sell their own weed. And I get it. The weed should be regulated. Where the cannabis comes from, who grows it, the quality of the product, all that stuff should be regulated, including how it's packaged and sold. But the actual storefronts and the marketing and that sort of thing, that should be controlled by private entities. So I'm not a complete, I'm not a communist. I'm not a complete socialist. Certain things should be based in capitalism. And this is one of them. So I don't want to get all back into that discussion, but almost everyone in the comments agreed with that. And really everybody, except for the Liberal government in Ontario, disagrees with their plan in rolling out legalized cannabis. Now let's get to the next video here. Sorry Canada, Bernie's healthcare plan is better. So in this video I broke down the Bernie Sanders Medicare for All plan and why it's better than Canadian healthcare. And there were a few different comments here I want to highlight. So Jeff Daniels again, he's a frequent commenter and makes some good points. He said, as watching this, I'm also reading an article that the military just got a huge budget increase up to $700 billion. Oddly enough, that didn't debate how they were going to pay for it. Yeah, so it's weird how certain things, certain policy ideas get debate on how to pay for it. So when it comes to investing into people, into society, so something like healthcare, or infrastructure spending, or college tuition. These things are all about, oh my God, how are we going to pay for that? But when it comes to a $700 billion increase in the military budget, almost all the Democrats voted in favor of it, including Elizabeth Warren, which is something I'm going to get to in a minute here. So the next comment here from Courtney W. Not only will the average person save money because they are not paying monthly insurance premiums, the actual cost of their included care will be $0. Insurance here in USA rarely covers 100% of medical procedures, and there is usually a deductible to meet anyway. in many HSA-based plans, a very high deductible in the thousands of dollars. So this is a great point that I'm glad Courtney made. So as somebody who's not an American, I don't have direct experience with health insurance companies and how that insurance system exactly works. So that's where people like Courtney and other commenters can come in and fill the gaps and really help to educate me that it's not just about paying insurance companies. It's also what you have to pay in absent of what the insurance companies cover. And Medicare for All does away with all that. You don't have to worry about anything. You go to the doctor, you get sick, whatever it is, it's covered. And yeah, there are some gaps even in Medicare for All, especially in the Canadian healthcare system. For example, dental isn't covered. But in Medicare for All, dental is covered. And that was one of the reasons why this Medicare for All system is better than Canadian healthcare. Now, the last point, or the last comment I want to highlight here, from Signed Up: how many relatives and or friends work for a health insurance company? So I don't know if this person commented this sarcastically or seriously, but this is actually one of the points that corporate Democrats and Republicans, I assume, I haven't seen it, are making against a Medicare for All system. That, oh, what about the people that work in the health insurance industry? How about their jobs? That's a terrible argument. You don't keep crappy industries going just because of the jobs. The jobs will go elsewhere. There are many things in history where there aren't really people working in those industries anymore. I mean, coal is one of them that is dying off, and it will die. So just because an industry employs people doesn't mean that you should keep it past its expiry date. And people that currently work in the health insurance industry will find other jobs. And by the way, I don't know if you've worked in insurance. I know I haven't, but if you have, I can't imagine trying to sell insurance is the most fulfilling job. So even if they want to keep working in the insurance industry, there are other insurance industries that they can find jobs in. And I know that's not an elegant answer, but you have to do away with these dying industries. And health insurance is one of those industries. So let's go to the next video. Kellerman rips NFL. ESPN hides clip from public. So in this video, Max Kellerman was really the star of the video. So he has about a 2-minute rant in the video about the NFL and the old white owners who won't hire Colin Kaepernick, even though he clearly should have a quarterback job in the NFL. Now, while the vast majority of people agreed, there was some dissent, and I'll get to that as well. So the first comment here is just about my health. Your voice sounds better. I hope you're feeling better. Well, thank you, Uatu Omega. I've been sick this week. I have a cold right now still. It won't go away. It's kind of depleted my energy levels a bit, so I feel like in some of my videos I have a little less energy than I would normally. But I'm feeling a little better, but I'm not perfect yet. Next comment from Cloyette Grant. What is done in the dark will come to the light. Nothing is hidden. Sooner or later, it will be revealed. Yep, and that's exactly what happened here. So if you didn't watch the video, ESPN cut the Max Kellerman clip out of their own YouTube clip. So in their YouTube clip, they showed everybody else on the panel responding to the Colin Kaepernick question, and then when it got to Max Kellerman's turn, they cut the video off, and you don't see his response. And companies need to learn that you can't do that, because even if you don't like what somebody says on here, somebody has it somewhere. Somebody recorded it on their phone or on a DVR, and it's going to get out, and someone just texted me. I'm not going to answer it. And that's what happens. So for ESPN to try and hide it makes it even worse, because then it shows that ESPN is actively trying to silence certain voices. And in this instance, they really only did it because Max Kellerman was criticizing NFL owners. And ESPN, I mean, this is my suspicion, but it's obvious from the way they cut the clip out. ESPN was afraid of how the NFL and their owners might respond to Max Kellerman calling them essentially old white racist men. And that's why it was cut out. But you can't hide this stuff. the next comment here. From Matthew Holden. You leftists are so out of touch with reality. 60% of NFL owners are conservatives. Want to destroy the NFL? Disrespect the anthem on national television on a football field, which is like religion in conservative America. There are sensible boundaries that exist for good reason. Politics belongs in some places and not others. It doesn't belong on a football field. And as you can see, nobody liked that comment. So I feel like this, even though this was a view that came from a couple different commenters, it wasn't really a popular one. So most people are on Max Kellerman's side. And obviously I disagree with the commenter because politics is the world. Politics affects you no matter where you are. So, I mean, would it be okay with this commenter if he protested in the middle of the street? Or would that disrupt your commute home from work? So, protests are supposed to disrupt you. They're supposed to get your attention. They're supposed to bother you. Because they're supposed to bring your attention to an issue that you're not going to recognize otherwise. If Kaepernick was protesting in a peaceful way that you didn't notice, then you're not noticing it. And it's defeating the purpose of the protest. So you're supposed to notice it. And that's exactly what Colin Kaepernick has done. He's made you notice this. Now, that doesn't mean you have to agree with him, but he's raising an issue that is now catching on. And more people in the NFL, more players in the NFL are participating in the same protest that he was. And they're continuing on raising awareness of this issue. Now, let's get to... before I get to the next video, there's also another part of that comment I don't really want to dive into here because it's a whole other video in itself. But the national anthem. So look into the history of the national anthem. And another commenter replied to him saying the same thing. So the history of the national anthem is a problem in itself. And so anyways, I really don't want to get into that because that would be a whole 10-minute video. But there are so many reasons to protest the national anthem. Let's just say that. Okay, next video. Warren for sale. Attends Wall Street fundraiser. So in this video, I discussed Elizabeth Warren and her attending a Wall Street fundraiser in Martha's Vineyard, as well as meeting privately with JP Morgan Chase Executive Chairman Jamie Dimon. Now, this got a lot of comments and a lot of people who are sort of more on the extreme side compared to where I am. So I'll show you the first comment to give you an example. From Kevin Clemens. I don't trust her. She will knife us in the back. She is dead to me. So this was the sentiment for most people in the comments, that Elizabeth Warren is dead to them. And it really stems from that she didn't endorse Bernie in the 2016 primaries. Now, I get it. I totally understand why Elizabeth Warren is dead to a lot of people, but I try to play the game of, you know, where's the gray area? So I tend not to see the world in black and white. So Elizabeth Warren is not Hillary Clinton. I don't think Elizabeth Warren is a neoliberal. I think Elizabeth Warren is a progressive who is trying to play the Democratic game to get on their side to push the party in a more progressive direction. So instead of going the Bernie route and publicly forcing progressive policies, or not I shouldn't say forcing, but publicly pushing progressive policy and criticizing the Democratic Party, he's almost more allowed to do that because he's an independent. So Elizabeth Warren is playing the other game, where behind the scenes, I believe she's pushing or trying to push progressive policy, but in front of the cameras, she is acting like the Democrats are great and we shouldn't primary out corporate Democrats and that sort of thing, in a way to get on their side, to then push progressive policy and convince them of her side behind the scenes. Now, I think that strategy is wrong. And I think Elizabeth Warren is naive to think that these Democrats who are bought by their donors are going to change their minds because she's convinced them that the moral thing to do is be progressive. I don't think she's going to win that game if that's the game she's playing. So I'm more in line with what Bernie's doing. Publicly criticize and push the Democratic Party in a progressive direction. Because then what happens is you get the people on your side. And you force the people to rise up and be like, yeah, that's what we should do. Medicare for all. or free college tuition and push these policies on their congressmen. So that's the Bernie plan. That's the Bernie strategy. I think Bernie's strategy is going to be more successful. I think we're already seeing that Warren's strategy is failing, and not even just failing behind the scenes. It's failing in terms of her losing support. And you can see that across the board. Whenever Elizabeth Warren comes out and does something like this, people aren't happy about it. And that gets to the next comment. Gemini02 says, David, it's also important to point out that Warren was with the vast majority of Democrats to just vote in favor of the bloated $700 billion military budget, not a progressive stance. And that's right. And I heard about that news after I had already shot that video. So I didn't mention it in the video. But after hearing that, yeah, it's completely disheartening that Elizabeth Warren did that. And I'm going to play I'm going to play the devil's advocate game again just for a second, but she's on the Armed Services Committee. So there is a reason. It's not just like out of the blue she's now being, a neoliberal. So she's on these committees, she's in the Democratic Party, unlike Bernie. So she has more pressure on her to play the game, to play their game. And she's giving into it, unfortunately. But keep in mind, she's also under more pressure than Bernie Sanders is. And that pressure gets to most people. And most people aren't able to fight back against it. So Elizabeth Warren continues to think that she needs to play their game. And she's wrong. Maybe she'll wake up to it. I don't know. But votes like this and meeting with Wall Street donors, whether or not anything bad was said in those meetings, or whether or not she's trying to court their money, just meeting with them in general is a problem. And this vote, regardless of the fact that she's on the Armed Services Committee, voting for a $700 military budget increase it's not progressive. And it's the wrong thing to do. And the last comment on this video. The only surprise here is that people are surprised. She absolutely refuses to back any progressive candidate and said she will fight like hell to back corporate Democrats against primary challengers. Pay attention, folks. So again, this is more about her being in the Democratic Party and the pressures that she's faced with being in the party. So it's hard for her to come out and support Paula Jean over Joe Manchin, who's already a Senate Democrat, because, she works with Joe Manchin. So, that's the issue, is she knows these people. She knows these corporate Democrats personally. And she's not going to come out and publicly support their challengers. And I know it would be great if she did. If she did, it would show that she is more... she has more balls than most politicians, because most politicians won't do that. And unfortunately, Elizabeth Warren just isn't the person that many people want her to be. She isn't that strong progressive voice that is going to stand up to power, at least publicly. I still think she's doing it behind the scenes, but publicly, yeah, she won't do it. And it's a problem. It's a strategy that is going to fail, and it has failed. And she should join forces with Bernie and be more openly progressive in public and not just fight behind the scenes, because where is it getting them? So, next video here, which is the second last video. Mainstream thinking. The Washington bubble is real. So I'm not going to summarize this video because the first comment kind of does it for me. So the first comment is from Vanguard Supreme. I'm sorry, is Ezra Klein a fucking idiot? Bernie Sanders should have pushed the Medicare for All bill back because the GOP will make it look bad? Talk about reaching. We know that Americans, especially conservatives, but moderates as well, like to play this game in which they pretend that no other developed countries exist when trying to defend their failed policies. From formerly marriage equality to law enforcement / drug policy to education to, of course, healthcare. But even within that framework, there are no credible arguments against single payer in America right now. None. I've read them. I've heard them. They all suck. The closest to a credible case against Medicare for All / single payer involves concerns over the cost and taxes such a system might incur. But then no one sees that Trump and Congress just inflated the military spending by another $80 billion. No questions asked, and no one realizes it's all a load of crock. So not too much to say here, except I agree with Vanguard Supreme. So Ezra Klein, I'll try to go over it quickly now. Ezra Klein was arguing that Bernie Sanders announced his Medicare for All bill too early because it now gave the GOP a punching bag to try and gain support for their own Obamacare repeal bill, which is such a dumb point of view that it's. I mean, I had to talk about it. It was just in a tweet that Ezra Klein tweeted, but I had to talk about it because this is the type of mainstream thinking that Democrats have done for years. And where's it gotten them? They keep losing seats and they keep losing support. So the Democrats have to announce and push bold ideas to gain supporters. That's their issue. They keep losing supporters because all they're doing is playing defense against the GOP. So by announcing an idea like Medicare for All, whether or not it's before or after the September 30th date for the GOP to push their own Obamacare repeal bill, it doesn't make a difference because Medicare for All is a popular solution in America. And repealing Obamacare pulls way lower, like way below 50%, whereas single payer pulls above 50%. People aren't dumb. They don't want Obamacare repealed, and they do want more coverage. It's as easy as that. Now, let's go to the next comment. From Truth to Power. Everyone knew Bernie was going to propose a Medicare for All bill. The GOP was going to use the specter of the bill anyway. The simplest pitch would be to pass this bill, or else the Dems are going to propose a government takeover of healthcare. And without a bill to base it on, the GOP could turn single payer into any boogeyman they wanted. Bernie's bill made it harder for them to lie about what the progressives wanted to do. P.S. David needs to move to the U.S. already. He already knows more about politics than most of us do. LOL. We need more smart progressives. So first, to address the first part of that comment, this point, I think, is probably a better point than any point I made in my video. So he's exactly right. Even if Bernie Sanders hadn't announced his Medicare for All bill, the GOP may have actually had a better talking points to talk against the Democratic Party, because then what they would be able to say is, well, we don't know what the Democrats are doing, but we know it's a government takeover of healthcare. And they would be able to create this boogeyman of what the Democrats might do and scare people into thinking, oh my God, maybe the Democrats are really going to screw up healthcare even worse than the GOP can. So by Bernie announcing his Medicare for All plan before this GOP healthcare plan, it gives people this clear, this concrete idea of what the Democrats actually want to do versus what the GOP actually want to do. So while the GOP are saying, oh my God, Bernie Sanders' Medicare for All plan is government takeover, it's crazy, it's scary, people can actually look at the details of Bernie Sanders' plan and see if they like it, they understand it. Obviously, there's always going to be this contingent of people who are going to hate everything the Democrats put up, no matter what. But there are many other people who will actually read about and understand, or at least try and comprehend what the Democratic Party wants to do. And now that they actually have this bold plan of Medicare for All that they want to implement, it's actually going to, I believe, grow support in polling. So Medicare for All, or a government-based healthcare system, already polls above 50%. And that's before the Democrats even had an actual plan to offer. Now that they have a real plan to offer, and the details of it seem pretty solid as far as how it gets rolled out, so having a rollout over 4 years, and it's a plan that makes sense. And people are going to see that, and I think it's going to grow. The support for it in polling is going to grow from the American people. But we're going to find out. So maybe I'm wrong. Now, the second part of that comment, David needs to move to the U.S. already. Maybe one day, maybe if you get Medicare for All, maybe if your healthcare system is better than Canada, it's possible. So there are aspects that I like about the U.S., like the weather. It would be nice to, live in a warmer part uh, warmer part, well, a warmer climate. So, you know, living on the coast, or even living in New York where it's not really warmer, but you know, it's just a different vibe. It's a cool city. I like New York a lot. I like LA a lot. I like Seattle a lot. So one day, who knows? But right now, I love Canada, and I'm not moving anytime soon. But it's not out of the question. Next comment from Jeremy Chase. It's pretty damn sad when a Canadian knows more about United States politics than 80% of US citizens. So I just put this comment in here because it's a compliment, and I like getting compliments sometimes. So the thing is, I have an interest in US politics, and I don't think it really needs to be tied to, you know, where I'm from. Yeah, I'm Canadian, but there are people that are in other countries who have an interest in other countries. So there are people that live in the US who maybe they know a lot about the Middle East, or a lot about Greece or Australia or whatever. So I don't think you have to live in a country to know about that country and how it operates. And in some ways, it gives you a better perspective because you're outside of the influences of what's happening within that country, and you're able to see it from sort of a bird's eye point of view and look down at whether it's the politics or whatever it is, and be able to see it with a clear mind because it's not directly affecting you in your day-to-day life. So I think in some ways it's a benefit that I don't actually live in the US. Now, last video, finally. Mad Lawrence, MSNBC host, loses temper in leaked video. So believe it or not, this was the most divisive video of the week. So some people thought that Lawrence O'Donnell should be fired, and other people thought that this was not even worth talking about. So let me get to the first comment here. Vicky Vale 83 says, it seems like he was just frustrated. He wasn't name-calling. He wasn't being degrading. He was upset. We all get there. I wish I could go off and curse at my job sometimes. I still love him. He shows a lot of poise most times. I hate that people try to show people being humans and being emotional and shame them, especially men. I totally hear you, and I agree with you. So I didn't try to shame Lawrence O'Donnell in the video. So I gave Lawrence a lot of excuses, and I think there is good reason that he was freaking out in the video. So one is maybe he had a bad day, but the other is he was clearly annoyed by what was happening in the control room, and you know there's hammering going on. There's all these distractions. So when you're in a live news environment, and there's all this pressure on you to perform and be this perfect news actor, it's gonna annoy you when there are things setting you off that is going to affect your ability to perform on air. So I tend to be more on Vicky Vale's side here in thinking that this wasn't really a big deal. This was a comical video, and I thought it was kind of funny, but I didn't want to laugh at Lawrence in the video, more try to explain why he may have been acting that way. And at the same time, if this is a normal thing and he berates his staff, then that's also not good. But this was a video from one day, so we don't know what Lawrence is like normally. Now the next video, or the next comment. Linda Kern, stop the excuses. If my bosses or coworkers talk to any employers like that, bad day or not, they'd be fired, and someone would sue for hostile work environment. Be honest, he's having a mental breakdown. Yeah, I definitely don't agree with Linda Kern here. I don't think Lawrence was having a mental breakdown. I think he was just having a bad day, or things were setting him off, and it was affecting his ability to perform on air. And that's really all it was. The next comment here is also the last comment of the video. John B. Baca. I watch The Last Word almost every night, and from what I've seen, he has the worst crew on MSNBC. I've seen episodes where every time he wants to go to a clip or graphic, he waits for 4 seconds, then says, I guess we don't have it. This happens regularly on his show, and I've literally never seen it happen on Rachel Maddow or Chris Hayes. They played the wrong clip several times, and a few times the audio of the clip will suddenly start playing loudly for a few seconds in the middle of a monologue. I've actually thought in the past that this was impressive to see him stay so cool in those moments. Maybe he was just flipping out during the break. I pass zero judgment on Lawrence over this video, because I don't know the details, and this might have been totally justified anger. So I don't watch The Last Word every night, but if this is true, and this is sort of a pattern of behavior from the crew and how they screw up, then even more so, I give Lawrence a pass here. So this could be Lawrence acting out on simply the buildup of all of these issues that have occurred on his show. And I mean, in the clips, he talks about how his crew doesn't cut the SOTs, which is the sound on tape, the videos. So he has issues that clearly are consistent throughout, not just that day, but other tapings as well. And I totally get it. So MSNBC may be throwing him the worst crew of the bunch because he airs at 10 and they're able to. Whereas working at 8 p.m. or 9 p.m. is more favorable to a lot of people. So I totally get it. And that is the last comment. Now, if you enjoyed this video, it may have been too long. I apologize. I have no idea how long this video is. Still got to cut it up. But if you like what I do, you like my videos, you like this video or didn't, doesn't really matter. But if you like my stuff and you want some extra bonus content, go to therationalnational.com/join. And if you give me $3 a month on Patreon, then you get some bonus content. And you also, the most important part, you help me continue producing this show, because this takes up some time out of my day, a lot of time out of my day, and I enjoy doing it. I love doing this, but for me to be able to continue doing it, I need some money. And it's weird asking for money. I don't really want to do it. I don't like doing it, but I need it. And that's that. If you can donate, if you can afford it, great. rationalnational.com/join, or go to patreon.com/therationalnational. I'll also have a video, a link below the video, and you can go there. So thanks for watching. Later. Bye.